Let's take a look first against about Vermilion here. You did mention that he does play Devil Jin and Kazuya, so he knows the matchup. He knows how to play these characters in and out, and he will. It will depend on what Hapon is going to be picking later on. If he does stick to the Leroy, we saw that matchup before. Vermilion does have that Jin that made a complete mess of Coffee Prince's Leroy. So that might play the same against Hapon, though they are teammates, Hapon and Coffee Prince, so they must have discussed the matchup earlier, especially with both players actually fighting against Vermilion for this day.
I feel like it's so apt to have a 50% win rate on Kazuya. That just tells so much about the character. But again, moving forward, Hapon is actually the Slayer of Juggernauts, having a shutout 4-0 against Signal Ultra Warriors' very own Vermilion here.
So Hapon has the recipe to actually take down Vermilion, and I wonder if he'll be able to do the same thing this time around. I'm sure after all the losses that Vermilion has experienced in the hands of Hapon, he has reconsidered his decisions when it comes to their matchup. I wouldn't put it past L to have completely broken down what the matches. He has watched hours and hours of it, just replaying every single one over and over for the next time that they do meet in the competition. So we'll just have to see how it turns out this time.
Definitely. I wouldn't put it over any of these players to go watch and review the tape, as they are professional athletes after all. But once again, it's going to be on the right side. We have Happy Feet's Emperors Hapon, and of course Signal Ultra Warriors Vermilion just he's going for it.
Just signaling the arrival of the Weiwu that Vermilion is known for. Actually, so fast that it turns into something like a wave dash at the speed of light, a light dash, if you may say. And Hapon, of course, giving a very simple wave as well, recognizing the camera in front of him. So both of these players may seem to have a light-hearted approach coming into the match, but once that timer does start ticking down, it's going to be game mode for them. So it's going to be exciting to see. It's going to be exciting to see what they're going to be bringing to the table this time.
And talking about Vermilion, he's one of those players where as soon as he gets the momentum going, it's very hard to stop. He has the microwave mentality. As soon as he gets hot, he gets red hot. So Hapon will just have to weather that storm or just deny it completely for him to have a fighting chance against Vermilion, which obviously he does. 4-0, come on, man.
4-0 indeed. He has a recipe for Vermilion, and as you said, Vermilion does have that aggressive play style that he uses to strike fear to his opponents. Though I have noticed in his previous matches, that he has a tendency to go aggressive, take the advantage, and then walk away. Just go for a more defensive playstyle. Just back away and be more patient and wait for the opponent, almost like a sadistic approach. It seems like he enjoys watching the opponent kind of suffer a little bit under the pressure. In which case, I think it's mental warfare on one hand. And perhaps it's a gameplay of his own coming into this, instead of just going all the way in right from the get-go and finishing it off as soon as possible.
That's definitely the case, as it's very fitting for his name as well, the Crimson Reaper. And I love the evolution where, as we've noticed, he doesn't press as much on minus frames as compared to the last season, his last stint on the series. And as you mentioned, right now he's just so much more composed, and I think he was still reeling from that missed grand finals berth from the second conference of the first season of the Nationals.
Certainly, as he wants to paint a different picture this time around in this conference. And now, as we can see, so Hapon does not go for the Leroy, takes a page out of what happened to Coffee Prince's book, and goes for a Geese instead. But Vermilion, of course, he does have plenty of experience about Geese and knowledge as well, considering that his teammate in the previous conferences was a Geese player.
Yes, and of course Machine Head was incredibly dangerous on that said Goose. And now Hapon will show his own take on this character, which has been quite effective for him. But right now, Vermilion is taking quite a lot of health away from Hapon.
No, but nothing quite serious just yet between these two players. Still plenty of health left in their life bars, but and plenty of time left on the clock. This is the what we were expecting earlier, actually, between Vermilion and Jules. I mean, between Hapon and Jules, a slower match with both of these players kind of watching each other. Uh, but we're seeing it instead with Vermilion and Hapon, which reflects exactly what you said, Raf, that Vermilion is a lot more composed.
And this is immediately going to kill Hapon, and I love the composure to just not try anything else. But Hapon, I would say, aside from losing this round, has already completed his objective of taking a bar for himself. Now, there's a saying that the most important round for a Geese player is the very first one. So we'll see how this thing goes.
He definitely wants to build that bar, especially after the adjustments that they made for Geese, which makes it so much harder for him to actually accumulate the meter that he needs to deal some damage. But Hapon, he has to land those hits to make use of that meter, though. But he has yet to actually land anything serious.
Exactly, and with the addition of the Moon Slicer, he's been buffing his damage like crazy, but right now he's back to 0, and it's the go signal for Vermilion to go crazy, as with a beautiful duck and an even better punish.
Amazing work there for Vermilion. He's 2 rounds up, and Hapon is still yet to get his first meter. He will be getting it after this combo, maybe, but still, it is already there. Oh, Hapon frozen in spot by that wave dashing from Vermilion, and he is in trouble. He does get the counter hit. He's gonna get a mini combo here, but not anything particularly serious. Last chance for Hapon, 40 seconds, and that ZF1, that single Lancer from Devil Jin will be taking that game for Vermilion.
And Vermilion just not giving any space to Hapon to just use the standing 2 that we've become so accustomed to. But as soon as Hapon could have landed that standing 2, it could have been over for Vermilion, but that's not the case. Now, as we mentioned, Hapon does have a Leroy who he's been using to great success, as we've seen previously. Is he gonna swap Oru?
I'm not entirely sure that he will. There's a very low chance, if you ask me, because there must be a reason why he avoided the Leroy pick. He must have seen something in the game between Vermilion and Coffee Prince earlier in the day that made him say, it's probably not a good idea. I think Vermilion has a solid game plan against this character, and I don't have the right cards to counter it just yet. But he does have some other characters in his arsenal that we might be seeing against this Devil Jin. Not quite sure if he wants to bring out the Eddie Gordo, but a Zafina pick will always be welcome for my taste.
And Zafina, the only remaining bastion for the movement of old Tekken, the Tag 2 movement specifically. She has easily the best movement overall in the game. Her backdash is just so uncontrollably distant. Makes so much space for her, and that sidestep is so lethal in the right hands.
It certainly is. Movement, she has some of the finer movement here in the game. So the characters in this game actually have slight differences when it comes to the properties of their moves, and even in the most generic parts of the game, like the movement, where especially and that's very important, especially since Tekken is a 3-dimensional game. Movement plays such a big part in managing the range between you and your opponent. So picking characters with high mobility is definitely a good advantage to take. But okay, I was almost confused there because it seems that they have changed sides. So that's most probably Hapon sticking with the Geese pick, and Vermilion, of course, still on the Devil Jin since he did win the previous match.
I would say, though, this smaller stage might favor Vermilion because he does have access to that house sweep at all times. Meanwhile, Hapon, his regular Moon Slicer just can't cut it for a regular screw.
That definitely might be the case. It could be a suffocating stage here for Hapon, especially with the aggression that Vermilion wants to actually dispense at all times with this Devil Jin. Now, if it plays out exactly the same as the last match, it definitely will spell trouble for Hapon. But I'm sure the decision to stick with this Geese pick is something that Hapon has already considered.
As we've seen as well, Vermilion, although very early into the season, he's been super liberal with the use of that empty wave dash, just wave dashing in the face of Hapon, and Hapon was super hesitant to challenge that.
Yeah, that is one of the key tools that Vermilion uses to actually scare the opponent into freezing up. And you will see it with every character that has that wave dash, at least in the Mishima side, because that is what they're known for, especially with Devil Jin, the low hell sweep, which is fast, pretty much unseeable. And it also leads to a mini combo that takes a serious chunk of damage away from the opponent, though not exactly very fatal. But the idea of that move is to get the opponent ducking anyway, and that's where the mids that Devil Jin has comes in, and he does have some pretty good mids.
And definitely, just you use that hell sweep once, and that's it. It's going to be imprinted in their minds for the rest of the set. And Vermilion has been a master of that, although he has been, well, he did show flashes of recklessness in the previous season. That definitely has not reared its head yet.
You know, it's fine to be reckless to some degree. Just throw out those hell sweeps willy nilly. It is unseeable. There are opportunities to get around it by sidestepping, but it is that it is an important tool when it comes to Mishima players, whether it's Heihachi, it's Kazuya, or even if it's and especially with Devil Jin. So here it is once again. We are going into Sook, a very small stage as we've seen earlier today, and Hapon is indeed sticking with Geese Howard.
The thing is, on a stage like Sook, where not some combos have to be readjusted, especially Geese, where I don't think he can actually let out his full standing 2 combo because the stage just does not lend itself to that. He might just have to readjust, and well, see what happens.
Yes, we will see indeed. And the size of the stage, actually, now that I think about it, the size of the stage plays a huge part against Geese, because the longer that Geese's combos run, the more damage he can dispense. But the size will cut those combos short. So let's see if Hapon will still be able to deal the damage that actually Vermilion is already dispensing on his side.
Interestingly enough, this is Hapon's pick, so he must know something about Geese that we don't. But this meter is slowly building up. Hapon looks a lot better compared to his last showing in the previous set, but that Moon Slicer, unfortunately for Hapon, will miss.
It does. That was pretty crucial for him at the last moment there, but still, that quick chop to the feet of Devil Jin will give him that first round.
Yep, and now Vermilion has to just settle down a little with the offense, because one rogue standing 2 could be the end of him. But right now he's keeping it compact, just going for those empty dashes again. Hapon smartly not challenging, still very wary of those electrics.
Being very careful this time around. Tries to go for the reversal there, but Vermilion reads onto it, recognizes the animation, and immediately responds with that beautiful electric. But now look at this, Hapon with the huge life deficit trying to make his way back.
And it does look like Hapon's not using the down 4 as well. A very dangerous tool, but still a very strong one in the arsenal of Geese, especially on counter hit. He does have 20 seconds left on the clock to do something, but Vermilion is just happily coasting on the defense here.
Hapon does go for those quick lows, and immediately Vermilion with the block. So if that was a heavier low, that would have been trouble. Hapon opts not to spend his meter, not to go for the cancel. He does this time around because he lands the hit. Last chance for him here. He manages to take the advantage. The toe kick, not quite enough for Vermilion to get the advantage at the last few seconds there, and Hapon is up by 2 rounds.
And that's just how dangerous Geese is. As soon as that standing 2 hits you, I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record, but you've seen the damage. He does expend the bard to keep himself safe though, and it's a long way off from getting another one, but that down 4 is finally coming out, but the electric will stop him in his tracks.
Indeed, and he's going to be pushing all the way to the other end of the stage. And Hapon, he still has some advantage here. Vermilion now breaking that throw this time around. The breath kicks are coming out. Vermilion feeling that Hapon might be ducking sometime soon, but not landing those hits. And Hapon is slowly but surely chipping away at the legs of Vermilion. Oh, last chance right here. 20 seconds left on the clock. A few pokes coming in. Last chance for Vermilion. Hapon wants to even out the score, and once again that down 2 takes the round and takes the match for himself. It's 1-1.
And the crazy thing about Tekken, although Sook on paper just does not look like a good stage for Geese, Hapon made it his own, and his Geese his own style as well. With I would say pretty smart use of the bar there. There were times that it didn't connect. He did it to keep himself safe and just continue the pressure. Obviously, Vermilion sort of crumbled there, but it is going to be a 1-1 in the series, and I think it's going to be, if I'm not mistaken, if we know the habits of Vermilion, he's gonna go for a Forgotten Realm.
He's definitely not the type to switch out of the Devil Jin pick once he has already locked it in. Instead, he will be picking a more advantageous stage for him, and Forgotten Realm, it is kind of his home considering the history of his past few matches.
Definitely, and that damage from back to 1 into the Heaven's Door really lends itself to L's style, to Vermilion's playstyle, as he just kind of wants to smother the opponent as much as he wants. Meanwhile, on the other side as well, when Hapon had the chance to do the same thing, Vermilion didn't really have the tools to respond in time, and that's just giving the set away to Hapon.
Mm. Uh, if you do ask, that is certainly the case, but hopefully it will be a different story when we do get that stage change, or maybe we'll be surprised by a character change from Vermilion, though that is quite unlikely. Now, the stage change that we are expecting to the Forgotten Realm, how do you think that plays for Hapon as he is currently locked in with Geese?
Although Geese is known for big damage, we don't normally see a lot of stuff from him that can break floors. He does have Quarter Circle back 2 and into, I think that's 3, where he spikes the ground, but I think that hinders a lot of his potential damage. So Hapon does have the tall order of adapting to Vermilion's home court now.
Yeah, that certainly is the case, but uh, the objective now for Hapon, considering that we are getting this stage, is to break those floors before Vermilion is able to take advantage of them. It's a tall task, but Hapon, if somebody is able to do it, it's probably him.
And I don't think Hapon wants to tarnish his match history with Vermilion. I think he wants to go for that 5-0 here. And of course, Vermilion, he doesn't want that shenanigans to continue either.
Yeah, he wants to break the curse. He wants to break the Hapon curse that is haunting him for the past year. Both of these
And
players already out swinging. Vermilion a little bit more passive this time.
yeah, a lot more spacing has been observed here. And Hapon has been getting a lot of mileage off that 1-2 and that 1-4-3 here. Meter still isn't looking too great, and time is only ticking down.
He does have the life advantage though. Uh, Goes for the duck there. No big punish from Hapon, but he puts Vermilion in the red. And interesting rage art from Vermilion. And of course, Hapon will be taking advantage of that and grabbing that first win.
And as folks at home, if you haven't noticed yet, the stage is still completely intact. So Vermilion still has that the resources to go for that heavy damage, but it's the same case for Hapon as well. But Vermilion, his back is getting dangerously close to the wall.
Hapon has changed up his rhythm, and it's working against Vermilion quite well here. Also keeping him at bay with those DF1s, now landing that counter hit as well, breaks the first floor, so that's already one floor away from Vermilion's end. 30 seconds left on the clock, and he lands the hit, confirms it, and takes down Vermilion. Last chance for Vermilion right here because Hapon is at set point.
And Vermilion, I think he's showing just a little bit of weakness here, and Hapon is already taking full advantage here. Oh, the last hit whiffs, but the Magic 4?
Magic 4, not quite something that we always see from Devil Jin, but we do always see that Heaven's Door on this stage, breaking that second floor. Vermilion wants to make this comeback, and Hapon is already in the red. The Hell Sweep comes out. Will this be enough, though, to take out Hapon? Oh, not quite, but he breaks the last floor, and there it is, a Rising 2 in the end. I completely forgot that was a new combo and the floor was gonna break.
Exactly, but Vermilion though, he's kind of shut himself out from his big damage resource here, while Hapon is sitting happily on 2 bars. But this tempo is in the favor of Vermilion, as Hapon just doesn't have the space he can work with as of the moment.
No space and no response and no life left here because he is now in rage. Now Hapon, how is he going to make the comeback? He's trying to make things happen, going for the pokes. A beautiful eagle claw there from Hapon. Going to be able to even things out just a little bit, but still, it's pretty rough. He gets the hit. Oh! Tries to go for an adjustment. A raging storm! Oh my goodness! Vermilion thought he had an opening, but Hapon recognizes it, throws out the Raging Storm, and that was such a big brain play from him. Congratulations on that amazing victory in the end.
And we're back with a brand new chat over here at the post game show at the Nationals. Hey! Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your panel host, Laika Mea, welcoming you guys to the post game show. And of course, I'm not going to be alone on this one because I'm going to be joined by two very handsome casters, also known as Porokun and Raph. So, how you guys doing right now, Raph, Porokun? You guys still good?
Yeah. You go
Yeah.
ahead, Raph.
Today has been a very exciting day, definitely. Just overall, the matches have been super hype and a lot of twists, honestly. It's still the aggression from the first day that's carried on to this. And yeah, I hope this tempo will continue for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if
you said all of the hype. That is where all of my energy is coming from right now. So I'm apologizing if in advance if I'm too hyped for you guys. I'll try to tone it down so, or you guys could try to keep up with my energy as well.
We'll do our best to do that, because consider if it does actually continue at this pace, I'm not sure if we'll survive, but we'll do our best.
We got this, guys. Let's work on this together. It's the post show. It's a post game show, guys. All right. So, how do you guys want to go about this? Do you want to go for the highlights first, or do you want to slowly build up to that point?
What do you think, Boru?
Let's start with some of the highlights first, because we did get some amazing matches here in the second day of the Tekken conference. Lots of players finally getting their first wins here. Actually, Laika.
Of course. Go on. Tell us more. We'd love to hear it.
All right, so one of the most amazing matches that I really wanted to talk about was Rock and Roll, the newbie of the Nationals, for only setting foot in the Nationals for the first time here in the second season, and he managed to actually get that win over a veteran and coach of Bren E Pro, that is Mouts. So that is some amazing stuff coming out from him, taking advantage of Mouts's confusion when it comes to throw breaking. He was using plenty of throws in that game, and once Rock and Roll actually managed to recognize that, he took full advantage of it, and worked out well for him.
Do you have anything to add to that, Raph?
Of course. Honestly, looking at Rock and Roll, looking at this as a whole, like from the previous season as well compared to now, I'd expect the more veteran players to have a clear advantage over him, but that hasn't been the case at all. He's been pulling out all the stops. He's been doing the craziest things, the most entertaining, and he's been absolutely electrifying just from the first two episodes alone.
I'm sure. Like, you can see how many fans he has as we go along this, and a lot of people are just really supporting him. And in comparison to that one, he also puts on a show for all of us. So that is amazing from Rock and Roll, of course. So I want to hear your thoughts on this quote that Poch Spice said earlier in the first half of our show. Poch Spice said that one should prepare more for the players more than the characters. So I want you guys to expound on that thought first. Raph, I think you can go first.
Well, I think that's a good way to approach Tekken, because as me and Por mentioned many times throughout the cast, it's not necessarily about the strength of the character, it's how the player uses it. And considering these guys are very well experienced professional athletes, they definitely have so many creative ways of using the entire roster in their hands. For example, Maru did not use the coffin breaker, meanwhile AK on the other hand, with the same character, just completely utilized a different side of the move list.
And of course, there's also the idea that, considering the amount of experience that these players already have, it's more advantageous for them to actually get into the minds of the players rather than the characters that are already well available within their grasp. They're playing the game for hours on end, practicing every single angle there is. So they know the characters and what they can do. What they don't know is how the minds of the opponents will work this time around, especially after such a long break from the previous season.
Makes sense, of course. So speaking of well-available characters, we have had a surplus of Leroy's lately. One of the people who actually used this was Coffee Prince. So let's talk about that. Moving forward, so far, Coffee Prince hasn't been performing that well with his Leroy pick. But moving forward, do you guys think that he should still keep choosing Leroy? Raf?
Why don't you go first, Boru? I think I have something else in mind.
All right. Well, I I'm not. It's not really working well for Coffee Prince with that Leroy pick, as you mentioned, Laika. But I kind of understand where he's going for, because if you bring out your big guns right this early in the game, it they will be able to study it completely and be able to make so many more plans in the future. Maybe he's playing maybe he has a long plan ahead of him, thinking that I'm gonna hide it for now. I'm gonna hide the tricks that I have learned in these past few months, my secret techniques with my main characters, and I'm gonna play somebody, a character that I may have practiced quite a bit, and I think I can make work for now. I think that's what in Coffee Prince's mind, and uh, it can work. So I think he has a good chance of pulling it off if it's him.
Hmm.
I
I
think
feel like
Raf thinks otherwise on this point.
yeah, I feel like you should just I do agree with Boru that you shouldn't bring out the big guns immediately, because people can study that and whatnot. But it's not like he's only limited to the characters, to Leroy and whatnot. He does have a Brian, which has proved to be such an interesting pick in the as we've seen in the playoffs previously, and just in the late parts of the first season. And Brian is honestly such a good character. It's a strong character, very difficult though if you really want to hit that very tippy top of his ceiling. But still, otherwise, Coffee Prince, if he wasn't able to hit that, then he wouldn't be on the nationals. But he is, so you know, why not bring out the Brian?
Hmm. Good points, you guys. So, with all of the Leroy talk, let's move Coffee Prince on the side for a little bit. You know what I noticed though? When Smart Omega's Pika went up against Laos Auto Group Playbook Esports Eagles AK. So, if we recall correctly, AK brought out Leroy as well. But this time around, Pika chose Armor King, and it was a very close match, that battle. So, do you think that Armor King may be a good counter pick or perhaps a good match versus Leroy?
About that, we've actually had some fair amount of insight regarding the matchup from Pika himself, who used to be, of course, one of us casters. We've talked about the different character matchups, and when Leroy came out first, of course, he was the topic to talk about. And everyone was asking, how do you deal with this character? How do you actually play against him? He is such a menace. And Pika always brings up that a good matchup for him is Armored King. And that's because Leroy has a pretty good parry, right? So you can't do particularly predictable attacks and moves for him, especially those series or combination strings that we call when it comes to characters. Armored King, when he's played, he's a lot more compact, just single hits all the time. So players can actually just change up their timing and completely seal off the opportunity for Leroy to actually use his parry. Right, Raf?
Yeah, as much as I complain about Armor King having probably really bad sidestep, pretty terrible frames, pretty okay range, I guess. Punishments, up there. But, I have to stand with my boy, he's Armor King, as much of a terrible character he is, he's still my main. I love to suffer. But that's not the thing we're discussing right now. As Poru mentioned, he is a very compact character, and he does go for a lot of single hits. A good contrast would be Nina. Nina is a very pressy character, a lot of strings, a million moves, a lot of things lead to other things. Armor King is just not that type of character, and if Leroy is unfortunate enough to have bad timing with a parry, that's going to count as a counter hit on the throw. Now, people might be asking, what's a counter hit throw? Well, throws have this weird property. If you interrupt a move with them, the window of breaking the throw will become smaller, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah.
I see. Okay, so with all of the talk about like trying new characters and whatnot, I am gonna give you guys like a mini debate before we end the show. Okay, I think that Raph would be better suited on one side while Poro would be on the other side. So the topic is character loyalty versus choosing top characters in the game. So you guys just give 0 points for each, okay? Poro, how about you go first for the top characters in the game? What are the pros of always choosing those?
Well, there's a reason why they're considered as top characters because when players actually deem a character as a top or a strong character, that's because they have some moves that are advantages compared to the other characters in the game. So, of course, it's good to actually, it's a good idea to, if it's available for you, why not use it? Especially when you want to play to win. This is a competition in the end. The stakes are high, so you want to grab as much advantage as you can get. So it is always a good idea for me to actually go for the top picks instead of sticking to maybe your guns and staying loyal to something else.
Well,
What are the good points of being a loyalist, Raph?
you know, there are very good cases that Oru just mentioned. A lot of points that I could actually agree with, but it's Tekken comes down to comfort picks as well. If you guys do remember in recent history, Ranked actually won TWT with a panda. For the love of God, it's a panda. That's a horrible character, and I just need my reasons to stick by my horrible character, which is Armor King. So I don't want to sway away to other characters. But on a serious note, I think, as I mentioned, it's a comfort pick. What's the point of swapping characters if you can't even be comfortable playing them, if it doesn't match your style, if it just doesn't go your pace? You just end up hurting yourself as a player instead of using that character to its maximum potential.
Gotcha. Very good points, you guys. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. We appreciate it so much, Porokun and Raf. And once again, this has been Lygamea for the post-game show. And we're done with the brand new track over here at the post-game show at the Nationals. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.